The late afternoon sun burned low over the interstate, turning the Flying J truck stop into a wash of orange glare and long, tired shadows. Bull eased his Harley into a space near the diner, the big bike vibrating under him until he killed the engine. Silence fell like someone had shut a door. After 6 hours of highway rumble, the sudden quiet made his ears ring. His lower back throbbed in a dull, familiar line. His hands ached from gripping the bars. He rolled his shoulders once, leather vest creaking, and glanced toward the diner windows where plastic pie domes glowed under fluorescent light. Coffee, pie, 10 minutes off his feet. That was all he wanted. He swung his leg over the bike. His knees popped in protest as his boots hit the asphalt. Heat pulsed up through the soles from blacktop that had baked all day. He tugged off one glove, flexed his fingers, and heard it. Not the deep cough of a diesel, not the clatter of plates. Something thin, frayed, almost swallowed by the hum of the place. A sound that didn't belong in exhaust and truck brakes. A soft, choked sob. Bull lifted his head. For a second he thought he'd imagined it. Then it came again. A broken, hitching cry. The way a child sounds when they're past the point of words. It drifted from the side of the building, near the dumpsters where the lighting was bad and the asphalt cracked into uneven lines. His body went still. He knew that corner. Dark. Out of the way. A good place to mind your own business if you wanted the rest of your day to stay simple. He could almost hear the voice of a younger version of himself. Not your problem, old man. Get coffee. Leave it. Another sob cut through the air. Sharper this time. Definitely a kid. Bull exhaled once, long and slow, like he was letting go of the easy option. His boots turned toward the sound. The side of the building smelled like old grease and hot trash. A pair of big green dumpsters squatted in the shadow, metal lids streaked with rust. A battered pickup truck was parked a few feet away, its paint oxidized to a flat, tired red. Bull rounded the back of the truck and saw her. She was small, 7, maybe 8, too small to be out here alone. Dark curls were pulled back into a ponytail that had mostly fallen apart, loose strands sticking to her damp cheeks. Her pink t-shirt was smeared with dirt, jeans scraped at the knees. She sat on the ground with her back pressed against the rear tire. Skinny arms wrapped around a purple backpack clutched tight to her chest. Tears had carved clean tracks down her dusty face. Her shoulders shook with each strangled sob. Bull stopped a few feet away. He knew what he looked like. Big man. Salt and pepper beard down to his chest. Arms covered in ink. Leather vest. Heavy with MC patches and years of road. Scowl shaped by habit more than mood. Exactly the silhouette people moved away from at gas stations. The last thing this kid needed was that shape looming. "Hey there," he said softly. His voice came out low and rough with road and age. He eased himself down into a crouch, joints complaining, making himself as small as a man his size could. "You okay, little one?" he asked. Her head snapped up. Her eyes were too big for her face. Dark and glossy with panic. She flinched so hard, she almost smacked into the tire, scrabbling sideways, trying to press herself into rubber. "Whoa, whoa," Bull said quickly, lifting both hands, palms open. "It's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you. I just heard you crying. Wanted to make sure you're all right. That's all." He kept his tone even, like he was talking to a skittish animal. No sudden movements. No sharp edges. "Where are your parents?" he asked. She shook her head so hard. Her curls whipped. Can't tell." She stammered through hiccuping breaths. Have to keep going." The words sat wrong. Kid said, "I lost my mom." Kid said, "I can't find my dad." They didn't talk like they were on some mission they couldn't abandon. "Keep going. Where?" he asked gently. "Where are you trying to go?" "Riverside," she whispered. To my grandma's. I have to get there. She's waiting. Riverside. Bull did a quick map in his head. They were nowhere near it, at least 80 miles out, maybe more, with nothing but stretches of freeway and scattered exits between here and there. How'd you get all the way out here? He asked. Her face crumpled. I walked, she said. Then a nice lady gave me a ride, but she had to turn off. Then I walked more. I'm so tired, but I can't stop. I promised. Every instinct he'd built over decades on the road lit up at once. A kid this young, alone at a truck stop, mid-journey to Riverside with nothing but a backpack. It didn't fit. What's your name? He asked. Lily, she said, barely audible. Lily, he repeated. I'm Marcus, but everyone calls me Bull. Can you tell me why you're going to your grandma's by yourself? Where's your mom? Your dad? At Mom? Lily's eyes filled again. Her grip on the backpack tightened until her fingers went white. Can't tell, she cried. Can't tell anyone, he said. Terrible things would happen if I told. Bull felt something in his chest go cold. Lily, he asked quietly. Who said that? My stepdad, Derek. The name left her mouth like it tasted sour. Mommy married him 6 months ago after Daddy died. At first he was nice, but then what? He coaxed, then he wasn't nice anymore, she whispered. He started yelling at Mommy, breaking things. And yesterday, I heard them fighting real bad. I heard something crash. Mommy screamed, her voice thinned. Then everything went quiet. He forced his face to stay calm. Where's your mommy now? He asked. I don't know. She sobbed. I was hiding in my closet. I was too scared to come out. This morning, Derek came in and said Mommy had to go away for a while. He said she didn't want me anymore. But that's not true. Mommy loves me. Of course she does, Bull said, the certainty automatic. Moms don't just stop loving their kids. She nodded hard, like she needed that anchored. Derek said I had to take this to Grandma, she went on, hugging the backpack tighter. He said if I didn't, he'd know. He said he has people watching, and if I told anyone, police, teachers, anyone, he'd hurt Grandma before I got there. He woke me up when it was still dark, gave me $20. Said to get to Riverside however I could. Bull looked at the backpack. It wasn't big, just a kid's bag, with a faded unicorn on one side, but the way she held it, the weight of it in the story, it felt like something else entirely. Lily, he said softly, I need you to do something very brave for me. I need you to let me see what's in that backpack. Her reaction was instant and absolute. She gasped. She curled around the bag, body folding over it like she could disappear inside. I can't. He said I couldn't look, couldn't open it, couldn't show anyone. He'll know. Hey, Bull said quietly, look at me. It took a beat, but she did. This Derek, he said, he's counting on you being too scared to tell anyone what's happening. That's how men like him work. Whatever's in that bag, I need to see it so I can help you. Help your mom. Help your grandma. Can you be brave enough to trust me? She watched him, eyes tracing his weathered face, the beard, the ink, the patches, trying to decide what kind of monster or man stood in front of her. You promise you can help, she whispered. Promise you won't let him hurt Grandma. I promise I'll do everything in my power to keep everyone safe, Bull said. It wasn't a soft promise. It sounded like a vow. Her fingers loosened, millimeter by millimeter. Finally, she extended the backpack, arms shaking with effort or fear, or both. He took it gently. The weight surprised him. Not books, not clothes. He set it on the ground, unzipped it carefully. Stacks of cash stared up at him, rubber banded in neat bricks. Beneath them, plastic bags of white powder lay packed tight. At the bottom, wrapped in a towel, The unmistakable shape of a handgun waited for one heartbeat. Everything in him went blank. Then rage slammed into his chest, so hard he had to close his eyes. He counted silently. 1, 2, 3, just to keep from driving his fist into the side of the truck. When he opened them, Lily was watching his face like it held her entire future. Is it bad?" she asked. Bull looked from the money to the drugs to the gun, then back at the girl who had carried them 80 miles because a coward told her to. "Yeah, kid," he said, voice low and tight. "It's real bad. But none of it is on you." Bull didn't say anything right away. He just lowered the backpack, closed it carefully, and set it on the asphalt between them like it was a venomous animal. Then he straightened, jaw tight. "All right," he said quietly. "We're done doing this Derek's way." He pulled his phone from his vest pocket. Lily flinched. "Bull, please. He'll know. He already knows too much," Bull said, voice steady, but edged with steel. "And you've carried this long enough." He hit 3 numbers. Somewhere behind them, a semi-downshifted, air brakes hissing like pressure releasing. Bull didn't look away from Lily as the line rang. "Joe by Isha, what's your emergency?" "My name is Marcus Henderson," Bull said, pacing a slow half-circle so he could keep Lily and the open lot in his line of sight. "I'm at the Flying J truck stop off exit 47. I've got a child here in danger. Domestic violence, suspected kidnapping, narcotics trafficking. I need units now." The dispatcher's tone sharpened instantly. "Is the child safe at this moment?" "She is now," Bull said, his voice cracked just slightly on now. He forced it back under control. "I need a welfare check on the mother at a Beaumont address," he continued, gesturing for Lily to speak it. She whispered it. Bull repeated clearly. "The stepfather's name is Derek. Last known location unknown, but he sent the girl 80 miles alone." He paused, and he sent her carrying a backpack full of meth, cash, and a handgun. There was a brief, clipped silence on the other end. "Sir, do not touch anything else in that bag. Officers are on the way. Stay with the child." "Wasn't planning on going anywhere," Bull muttered. He hung up only when the dispatcher told him to. When he slid the phone back into his pocket, his expression had changed. Not softer, sharper, focused. The kind of look a man gets when he accepts the consequences of stepping into a fight. A motorcycle engine rattled into the lot, then another. Bull didn't even need to turn around to know who it was. The Iron Brotherhood never needed an invitation when one of their own shifted tone mid-ride. Tommy Razer Cruz swung off his bike first, helmet half unbuckled, eyes scanning before he even kicked the stand down. "What the hell's going on?" he asked, already hearing the edge in Bull's voice. Bull jerked his chin toward the backpack. Tommy crouched, unzipped the top just enough to see the bundles of cash and plastic-wrapped powder, then sealed it again. "Jesus," he breathed. "How long's the kid been hauling this?" "Too long." They exchanged a look. Silent, heavy, charged. Tommy didn't ask permission before pulling out his phone. "Rook," he said into it. "We need a plate check. Possible tail on a kid. Keep eyes open for a red F-150 or anybody parked where they don't belong." He moved fast, boots scuffing gravel, shoulders squared, circling the immediate area with sharp, practiced suspicion. 3 more Brotherhood bikes rolled in, low and loud. Engines cut, boots hit asphalt, vests turned toward Bull. "What's up?" Bear asked. Huge frame blocking half the fading sun. Bull jerked his chin at Lily. Small, trembling, streaked with dried tears. Bear's face changed instantly. The gruff, half-bored expression evaporated. "What did he do to you?" he asked her gently. Lily didn't speak. She just clutched herself, As if preparing for impact, Bull stepped in. Voice low, stepdad sent her 80 miles alone. Bag full of dope. Cash. A P.S. Mom might be hurt. The Brotherhood fell silent in a way that felt like the air tightening. Then Bear inhaled once. Deep. Controlled. Mother of God. He muttered, Bull. That means he used her as cover. Yeah, Bull said. Bear's eyes moved from Lily to the backpack, then back to Lily. Something in him snapped into place. You picked the right man to cry near, little one, he said softly. Then he looked over at Bull, eyes hard, voice low enough only he could hear. In our world, this creates a death. Bull didn't answer. He didn't need to. Brotherhood wasn't a word on a vest. It was a line in the sand. Tommy returned, breath coming sharper. No obvious tail, he reported, but someone parked on the far side left in a hurry when we rolled in. Bull's shoulders tensed. He scanned Lily, checking her hands for tremors, her breathing for panic. We stay put until cops get here, he said. Nobody gets near her. The Brotherhood shifted positions like a shield forming. One leaned against the dumpster's edge. Another took the corner by the pickup. Bear planted himself slightly in front of Lily, wide enough that nobody passing would even see her. Unless they tried. It wasn't a show of force. It was a quiet, instinctive barricade. And in that barricade, Lily's breathing slowed. A fraction. But enough. Bull checked the lot one more time. After police take her, he said to Tommy, I'm heading to that Beaumont address. Tommy nodded once. I'll ride behind you. Bear added, I'm coming too. Bull looked at Lily again. The exhaustion in her small body, the fear wedged in her shoulders. The way she kept glancing toward roads and doorways like Derek might step out of any shadow. You're safe now, he told her gently. We're not letting anybody near you. Her lip trembled, but she nodded. Then the sirens became audible. Fought first, then closer, slicing through the hum of diesel engines. Blue and red light washed across the chrome of the Brotherhood's bikes as the squad cars turned in. Bull didn't move. He just set a hand lightly, carefully, on Lily's shoulder. It's okay, he murmured. You did everything right. You're not alone anymore. And for the first time since he'd found her behind that pickup, she believed him. The first squad car hadn't even come to a full stop before Bull lifted both hands slightly, palms forward, signaling calm. The blue and red lights stuttered across the asphalt, catching the chrome of the Brotherhood bikes and the trembling outline of the little girl sitting behind Bear's massive legs. Officers stepped out carefully, hands near weapons, scanning the scene with a mixture of tension and confusion. What they saw wasn't a common sight. A small child, a suspicious backpack sealed and untouched, and a protective ring of bikers built like a human barricade. Sergeant Mendoza was the first to close the distance. The evening light cut sharply across her uniform as she approached, eyes sweeping for threats, details, exits, inconsistencias. Marcus Henderson, she called. Dispatch briefed us. Where's the child? Bull stepped aside just enough for her to see Lily, still small, still sitting on the ground with her knees pulled close. Bear shifted back half a step, softening his posture but maintaining the protective wall of his presence. She's right here, Bull said. Been with us the whole time. Mendoza crouched immediately, not to Bull, not to the men towering around her, but to Lily. Lily, she said quietly, I'm Sergeant Mendoza. You're safe now. No one here is going to hurt you. Lily gave the smallest nod, eyes flicking from Mendoza to Bull. Then back, behind them, two officers approached the purple evidence bag. The sergeant held up a hand sharply. Body cam on. She ordered. Clicks. A soft beep. The whir of devices activating. Only then did she step aside to give them access. A faint breeze kicked dust across the lot. as the officers sealed the backpack inside a clear evidence bag, gloved hands careful and precise. Tommy watched every movement with a hawk's suspicion, but no hostility. He stood still, arms folded, eyes sharp but respectful. The Brotherhood wasn't at war. They were witnessing justice being assembled. Bear knelt slightly beside Lily. "You want some water, kid?" he asked, voice softened to something unrecognizable from his usual baritone. She nodded. Bear passed her a bottle someone had brought from the diner. His huge fingers dwarfed it, but Lily accepted it carefully, like she'd been granted something sacred. Mendoza stood again and turned to Bull. "Tell me everything," she said. Not an order, a request backed by urgency. Bull walked her through the sequence in short, stripped-down pieces. No flourishes, no guesswork, just facts. The girl, the threats, the money, the narcotics, the weapon, the walk, the fear. She didn't interrupt once. Halfway through his explanation, Echo 2 hit like a silent pulse. A nearby patrol car screen flashed Bull's old assault charge, same story pattern. Stepping into violence to shield someone smaller. One officer glanced at it, then looked at Bull, then at Lily, and the understanding clicked. This man wasn't the threat. He was the reason she was still breathing. While Bull finished speaking, Rook returned from his perimeter sweep at a jog. "Found something," he muttered privately to Tommy, who leaned in. "Suspicious?" Tommy asked. "Driver at pump 9 left the second we rolled in. No plate on the front. Got a partial off the back. Starts with 7 KJ. Could be nothing. Could be someone's lookout spooked." Tommy nodded once. "Don't alert the cops yet," he said. "Let them handle their procedure, but keep that in your pocket." Rook tapped the side of his helmet. "Already logged it." Bear shot them both a look that meant later. "After she's safe," Bull agreed silently. Anything that could pull attention away from Lily right now was a liability. Mendoza moved closer to Lily again, lowering onto one knee. The sergeant didn't touch her. She let Lily choose the distance. "Sweetheart, we're going to take you somewhere safe," she said gently. "You'll ride in my car. I'll stay with you the whole time." Lily's hands twisted the bottom of her shirt. "Bull," she whispered, eyes darting sideways. Can he come?" The question stabbed directly into Bull's chest. Mendoza's expression softened. "He can follow on his bike," she said. "I'll let you see him before we leave." Lily nodded, relief loosening her shoulders for the first time since Bull found her. Bear let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. But then Lily hesitated, her gaze drifting toward the evidence bag again. "What's going to happen to Derek?" she whispered. Bull exchanged a look with Mendoza. She took the lead. "We're going to find him," she said, "and your mom. And we're going to make sure neither of you gets hurt again." "Not a promise, a certainty." Lily swallowed. The Brotherhood shifted almost imperceptibly, like the ground itself realigned. Bull crouched beside her. "Hey," he said quietly, "you were brave today. You told the truth, even though you were scared. That matters. That keeps your mom safe. You hear me?" She nodded. One small, tired nod. Tommy thumped Bull's shoulder once, soft for a man with hands like stone. "Kid trusts you," he murmured. "That says something." Bull didn't answer. He didn't trust his voice. Two officers guided Lily toward Mendoza's squad car. She paused, turned, and wrapped her arms around Bear's leg. He froze, big and stunned, then lowered his hand gently to her back. "You're safe, little one," he rumbled. She stepped back and looked at Bull. "Will I see you again?" Bull nodded once. "You will." It wasn't comfort. It was an oath. She let the officers guide her inside. The door closed with a heavy click. The engine started, the lights flashed, and the car pulled away. Bull's jaw tensed. Bear placed a hand on his shoulder. "You going to Beaumont?" Yeah. Then we ride. Tommy swung onto his bike. Rook followed. Engines fired one by one. Throati. Low. Unified. The Iron Brotherhood didn't roar out. They rolled like a storm front, forming as Bull slipped his helmet on. Echo 2 pulsed again in the smallest possible detail. A timestamp stenciled on the evidence bag locked the chain of custody airtight. A quiet guarantee. Derek's lies wouldn't beat the paper trail. Bull kicked his bike to life and pointed it toward the fading taillights of the squad car carrying Lily. "Let's go find her mother," he said. The bikes thundered into formation behind him. Maggie's diner glowed like a warm square of light against the desert dark. Chrome, trim, red booths, and the hum of a neon sign fighting old age. The scent of frying onions slipped out each time someone opened the door. Bull pushed inside first, boots heavy, shoulders squared from everything he wasn't saying yet. Jennifer sat alone in a booth by the window, hands wrapped around a glass of water like she needed its weight to stay anchored. Her clothes were rumpled, but her posture was stiff, coiled, ready to bolt. She didn't see Bull and Tommy at first. She was too busy watching the reflections in the window for shapes she feared. Maggie, a broad woman with a tired ponytail and the stance of someone who'd run this place longer than the neon had existed, slid a laminated menu in front of her. "Honey, what can I get you?" Maggie asked. Jennifer shifted, embarrassed. Just fries. Small ones. And a water's fine." Maggie looked at her for exactly 2 seconds, really looked, and closed the menu with a firm snap. "Nope," she said. "You're getting a diner meal, not bird food. Let me guess. Burger, medium well, extra pickles, plate big enough to scare the bill collectors." Jennifer blinked. "Thrown. But I can't afford." "Honey," Maggie said, patting her shoulder. "Nobody asks a woman running on empty to count pennies in my booth. Hot food first, pride later." Bull's throat tightened at that. He slid into the booth opposite Jennifer just as she lifted her head. She startled, just a flinch. But when she recognized him, her shoulders dropped a fraction. "You followed me," she said, voice thin. "We follow until you're safe." Bull replied, "That's the deal." Tommy took the seat beside Bull, arms crossed, scanning the diner without looking like he was. The place was half full. Truckers, a couple, an old man with a crossword, but not a suspicious face among them. Still, Bull didn't trust quiet rooms. Quiet rooms hid the worst things. A few minutes later, Maggie returned with a heavy plate, a thick burger glistening under the light. Fries stacked like a small mountain, steam rising. Jennifer stared at it like it might disappear if she reached for it. "You eat?" Maggie said. "Not optional." Jennifer's fingers trembled slightly as she lifted the burger. The first bite hit her like a shock. Her eyes closed. Her breath shuddered, and Bull saw it hit. She hadn't eaten a real meal in days. While she worked through the food, Tommy leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You got somewhere you need to be tonight?" he asked casually. Jennifer stiffened. "Home. I need to get home. They're expecting—" Tommy cut her off, gently but firm. "Home isn't safe." She gripped her fork tighter. "I can't just disappear. I have work, bills. I'm already behind enough." Bull spoke quietly. "Bills don't matter if you don't survive the night." Her breath hitched. That cracked the surface she'd been holding together. "What do you think is happening to me?" she whispered. "Why did my brakes fail? Why was someone in my backyard last night? Why?" Tommy didn't let her spiral. "We know who cut the brakes," he said. "Guy named Tyler Vance." Jennifer froze. "I don't know that name," she said. "I've never met." "You don't have to," Tommy said. "Men like him don't need you to know them. They just need you to see something they didn't want seen." Her eyes widened slowly, fear blooming in her chest. "What did I see?" she whispered. Bull held her gaze. His voice stayed low, steady, unsparing. You saw a man doing something he shouldn't have been doing, something he wanted erased. Maybe at the wrong time, maybe in the wrong place. Doesn't matter. What matters is this. People who cut brake lines don't leave loose ends. She swallowed hard. There's nowhere I can go, she asked. Police. A motel. Somewhere far. Bull shook his head slightly. Running blind is dangerous. He said, you need protection. Eyes on you. People who can put themselves between you and whoever thinks you're a problem. Jennifer looked between them. Bull, whose knuckles looked scraped from past fights, and Tommy, whose calm carried the weight of someone who'd buried friends. She wasn't sure if they were rough men or good men, but they were the only ones talking about keeping her alive. Maggie dropped off an extra plate of fries without asking. She leaned on the table for a second, speaking only to Jennifer. You stay with them, she said firmly. They look scary, but they're the kind that send monsters running. Then she walked away, leaving Jennifer blinking rapidly. Bull leaned back, letting the hum of the diner wrap around the moment. The neon sign flickered against the window. A truck pulled into a space outside, headlights washing briefly across their booth, turning the chrome napkin holders into mirrors. Jennifer wiped at her eyes. So what happens now? She asked. Tommy answered first. We take you somewhere safe tonight. Somewhere nobody stumbles into. And tomorrow, she pressed. Bull didn't sugarcoat. Tomorrow, he said, we find out exactly why a man like Tyler Vance decided your car should never reach the highway. Her breath trembled at the name. And until we do, Tommy added, you don't walk alone, you don't drive alone, and you don't go back to that house. Jennifer looked down at her half-eaten burger, then at her shaking hands, then at the men across from her. For the first time, she realized she wasn't sitting with bikers. She was sitting with the only people who knew she was in danger, and maybe the only people willing to put themselves in the way of it. The safe house wasn't really a house, not in the warm, porch-light sense of the word. It was an old rental on the edge of town. Quiet street, tired siding, front yard gone patchy from desert heat. The kind of place no one looked at twice. Perfect for hiding someone who shouldn't be found. Bull pulled his truck into the driveway first. Tommy followed on his bike, engine lowering into a slow, steady rumble before cutting out entirely. The night felt colder here, the air heavier, the silence too wide. Jennifer stepped out of the passenger seat like her legs didn't fully belong to her. Hours of fear had hollowed her posture. Her eyes tracked every shadow, as though danger could step out of any one of them. It doesn't look like much, Tommy said, offering a half-smile that barely lifted one corner of his mouth. It doesn't have to look like anything. Bull added, it just has to stay unnoticed. Jennifer nodded, swallowing hard. A porch light flickered above the front door. Old bulb, old wiring. But the dim yellow glow was enough to cut a thin circle into the dark. Bull unlocked the door and stepped in first. Inside smelled like dust and wood polish, a place left empty too long but tended in quick sweeps by people passing through. A small living room held a sofa, a sagging armchair, and a coffee table scarred with old knife marks. Nobody ever bothered to sand out. Jennifer crossed the threshold slowly, eyes everywhere. You're safe here, Bull said. We picked it because it's boring. Tommy snorted. The entire street could fall asleep and not notice. That earned the faintest flicker of amusement from Jennifer. Quick, fragile, gone in a second. She drifted toward the small window over the sink, where the backyard pressed up against the darkness. Bull flipped the back porch light, and a single tired bulb buzzed to life. Jennifer looked out. It wasn't much. A fenced yard, a patch of dirt, a dead flower bed, and in the corner, a rusted swing set. 2 chains, orange with age, 1 seat missing, 1 seat crooked. The frame leaned slightly, like it was tired of standing. But it was a swing, a child's swing, a memory of someone else's safe days. Jennifer pressed her palm lightly to the glass. Her breath fogged the pain. Bull watched her from the doorway, watched the way something in her softened and hurt at the same time. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded without turning, but her voice broke when she whispered, "My son used to have a swing like that." Bull didn't speak. He didn't need to. The stillness was answer enough. Tommy cleared his throat gently. "You should rest," he said. "We'll take shifts outside." Jennifer hesitated. She wasn't sure if she should feel grateful or terrified. Maybe both. But exhaustion won. "Okay," she murmured. She walked to the couch. The moment she sat, her shoulders sagged. Madge's burger, the adrenaline crash, the endless fear, it all hit at once. Her eyes fluttered. "Lie down," Bull said quietly. She did. Within minutes, she was asleep, knees tucked slightly, hands curled near her chest, like she'd finally reached a place where she didn't have to brace for impact. Tommy stepped outside to smoke. Bull stayed inside, leaning against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching the room, watching the windows, watching the dark beyond them. For the first time all night, it felt almost calm. Almost. Then Jennifer's phone buzzed, a tiny vibration. Nothing more, but it sliced through the quiet like a blade. Bull crossed the room in 2 steps, picked it up from the coffee table, and froze when he saw the notification on the lock screen. No contact name, no number, just a single text. "We know who you are." The breath left his chest. He turned sharply toward the front door. "Tommy," he barked. Tommy was already halfway through the doorway, cigarette forgotten, hand going to the inside of his vest, where his knife usually sat. "What?" Tommy snapped, scanning Bull's face. Bull handed him the phone. Tommy read the message once, jaw tightening. The street behind him felt darker now, the shadows too sharp, the silence charged. "They found her number," Tommy muttered. "Probably found the house she fled from. They're not guessing anymore." Bull didn't need to say anything. They both knew what this meant. They hadn't bought time. They'd borrowed seconds. Jennifer stirred on the couch, shifting in her sleep but not waking. Tommy's voice dropped to a controlled whisper. "I'll go get Bear," he said. "He's 10 minutes out." Bull nodded. Tommy swung onto his bike and kicked the engine to life. The sound tore through the street before fading into the distance. Bull locked the door behind him, pulled the curtains tighter, and checked every window latch, staying silent so he wouldn't wake her. Outside, the rusted swing creaked once in the wind, just a slow groan of metal, but it sounded like something warning them that safety here was thin and temporary. Bull returned to the living room. He watched Jennifer sleep, finally, deeply, but he didn't sit down. He just stood guard, jaw tight, shoulders squared, eyes on the door, waiting for the next threat to show its face. Morning light hit the safe house like a soft warning. Too bright, too quiet, the kind of quiet that made Bull's instincts twitch. Jennifer sat at the small kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. She wasn't drinking. She hadn't spoken much since waking. The message from last night still lived on her phone screen like a bruise. "We know who you are." Tommy stood near the window, watching the street with steady eyes. Bear arrived minutes later, hair damp from a rushed shower, leather vest half buckled, tension rolling off him. "We need to move," Bear said, not wasting time. "They found her number. That means they're triangulating location. She doesn't get another quiet night like that." Jennifer swallowed. "Move where? I can't run forever." Bull leaned against the counter, arms folded. He'd been thinking all night, between checking locks, pacing shadows, and listening to every creak of the swing in the backyard. "Running isn't the plan," he said. Jennifer looked up. "What is?" Bull exchanged a glance with Tommy. It was Tommy who answered, stepping toward her so she could see the seriousness in his eyes. "You go public. Jennifer blinked. Public. As in, what? Talk to someone. Talk to everyone. Tommy said. Television. News. Cámaras. You step into the light so bright that the people after you can't get close without burning themselves. Bear nodded. It's the only thing that slows guys like this. Not police reports. Not hiding. Visibility. If the whole city's staring at you, you're harder to erase. But Jennifer's breath caught. That's dangerous. That paints a target on. You already have a target, Bull said gently. This paints armor over it. Jennifer went still. Bull pushed away from the counter, pulled a folded paper from his pocket, and placed it in front of her. A business card. KATU News. Producer's name scrawled in pen. Friend of a friend. Bull said, they'll put you on air tonight if you want it. Jennifer stared at the card like it weighed 50 pounds. What would I even say? She whispered. The truth. Tommy said, that you were targeted, that someone tampered with your brakes, that you don't know why, that you want answers. Bear rested one massive hand on the table. People think monsters hide in shadows. He rumbled. Real ones hide behind silence. Jennifer pressed her hands over her face. This is insane, she whispered. I'm nobody. Why would they come after me? What did I see that was so? Bull's voice softened. It doesn't matter what you saw. They think you saw too much. That's enough. Jennifer dropped her hands. Her eyes were full of fear, but behind that, something new flickered. Resolve. Marcus, she said quietly, if I do this, if I go on air, they'll come harder. Yes, Bull said, and if I stay silent, they'll find me. Yes. She took a shaky breath. Then I'm done being hunted. Bull nodded once. Slow, proud. The studio smelled like warm lights and static. Cameras on tracks glided silently. Makeup artists whispered corrections. Producers pointed with wide, urgent gesturas. Jennifer sat in the guest chair, blinking against the brightness. She looked fragile under the studio lights. But there was steel under her skin now, thin but real. Bull waited off stage with Tommy and Bear. They didn't relax. They stood like three sentinels carved out of shadow. A young producer, nervous smile, quick eyes, approached Jennifer with a mic pack. We'll go live in 60 seconds, she said. Just breathe normally. Speak from the heart. Viewers connect with truth. Truth. Jennifer clenched her hands in her lap. Bull stepped close enough to murmur to her, voice low. You're not alone, he said. You say what you need to say. We'll handle what comes after. She nodded once. It steadied something inside her. The host turned toward her, voice calm. Practiced. We're live in 10. The producer called. Jennifer swallowed. 8. Tommy exhaled slowly. 6. 5. The red on-air light snapped on. The host began gently. Jennifer, thank you for being here. You reached out because you believe someone attempted to harm you. Can you tell us why? Jennifer looked straight into the camera. Her fear didn't disappear, but it didn't rule her either. My brakes were cut, she said, voice clear. I almost died. I don't know who did it. I don't know why. All I know is that someone thinks I'm a problem, and I believe they won't stop unless people know what's happening. Bull watched her with something like awe. Tommy crossed his arms. Bear nodded once, a silent approval. The host leaned in. Do you feel safe now? Jennifer looked directly at the lens. She said, but I refuse to be silent. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic, but it was brave, and bravery echoes. The host closed the segment with soft sympathy. The cameras panned wide. The lights dimmed. Jennifer exhaled shakily. As the red light clicked off, Bull moved toward her immediately, a steady presence cutting through the chaos of staff and equipment. You did good, he said. I'm scared, she whispered. That's fine, he replied. Courage isn't losing the fear. It's talking through it. She opened her mouth to thank him. Her phone buzzed. Bull saw her flinch. He saw the color drain. She turned the screen toward him with trembling fingers. Another anonymous message. This one worse. Lights won't save you. Bull's jaw locked. Tommy stepped in. They're watching the broadcast. Bear's voice dropped an octave. Then they just told us where to look next. Jennifer stared between them, fear rising again. But this time, she wasn't facing it alone. Bull slid her phone into his palm. No more running, he said quietly. We take the fight to them now. The safe house felt smaller when they returned. Night pressed against the windows, thick and heavy, as if the darkness itself were leaning in to listen. Jennifer sat on the edge of the couch, arms wrapped around herself, phone on the table like it was a live grenade. Bull stood near the doorway, back against the wall, eyes on every shadow that moved. Tommy paced slow circles, restless energy bottled under his vest. Bear checked the windows again, even though he'd already done it twice. A soft knock broke the silence. 3 taps. Measured. Not urgent. Oficial. Tommy opened the door an inch, checked, then swung it wider. Sergeant Davidson stepped in. Plain clothes, badge clipped to his belt, notepad already out. Lines under his eyes deepened when he saw Jennifer. "You okay?" he asked her. She didn't lie. She shook her head. Davidson nodded once. "Then let's build something that makes you safer." He took a seat at the kitchen table, flicked on the overhead light. The safe house's single bulb hummed, painting the room in a pale yellow glow. "Start with the phone," he said. Bull handed it over. Davidson read the newest text. His jaw shifted once, a muscle ticking. "This is gold," he murmured. "Threat delivered after televised whistleblowing. That's motive, intent, and awareness of visibility. A prosecutor will salivate." He laid Jennifer's phone on the table like evidence in a courtroom. "That text," he said, "is a weapon." Jennifer shivered. Davidson continued, pulling 2 more folders from his bag. "And here," he said, opening the first, "is the preliminary break report. Metal shear marks consistent with intentional tampering. This wasn't vandalism. This was sabotage." He slid a photo across the table. Close-up of cut break lines. Clean, precise, cold. Jennifer covered her mouth. Davidson opened the second folder. "And this," he said, "is the statement from your neighbor, the one who saw someone in your backyard the night before the accident." He gave a description. "Matches someone we've already flagged." Bull and Tommy exchanged a quick look. Davidson continued, voice steady but edged with steel. "Between this text, the break report, and the witness statement, we have enough for an affidavit, a warrant application, and protective custody justification." Jennifer blinked rapidly. "Protective custody. It's voluntary," Davidson said. "You choose it. You choose the affidavit, too." He slid a thick form in front of her. Jennifer stared at the header. Her breath hitched. "This makes it real." "It was real before," Davidson said quietly. "Now it's provable." Bull moved to her side. He didn't touch her, just stood close enough that she could lean if she needed. Davidson uncapped a pen and set it on the table. "This is your choice," he said. "You sign this. We file it immediately. It becomes part of the official record, your statement under oath. Once it's logged, it can't be buried, it can't be shredded, and it can't be quietly lost. It forces the system to move." Jennifer stared at the paper. "Will it stop them?" she whispered. Davidson answered honestly, "But it makes going after you much riskier. Paper is slow, but paper is loud. It spreads. It forces light where somebody wanted dark." Bull spoke then, voice low but unwavering. "You already stepped into the light. This just means you don't step out alone." Jennifer closed her eyes. For a moment she wasn't in the safe house. She was on the studio stage again, the lights hot on her skin, her voice cracking but steady. "I refuse to be silent." She opened her eyes, Her hand trembled, but she picked up the pen. Tommy and Bear stood absolutely still, as if any movement might break the moment. Jennifer hovered over the signature line. Her breath shook. Her resolve didn't. She signed. Davidson let out a slow breath. "That was brave," he said quietly. "A lot braver than most people ever need to be." He flipped the pages, double-checking. His pen moved fast. Initials, timestamps, case references. Bull noticed something. Davidson wasn't stamping pages slowly. He was stamping them like he feared they might be needed before sunrise. Davidson slid the completed packet into a thick plastic evidence sleeve. "Once this leaves the house," he said, "it's official." Jennifer looked up at him. "So what now?" Davidson paused for 3 long seconds. "Now," he said, "I run this to the judge and hope they don't sleep early." He stood, gathering his folders and the plastic sleeve, but before he left, he looked Jennifer right in the eyes. "You've taken the step that puts everything in motion," he said. "From here on, we move as one, the law on one side, these men on the other." Jennifer swallowed hard. Davidson asked the final question quietly. "Are you ready?" She didn't look at Bull, or Tommy, or Bear. She looked at the affidavit. Her name, her oath, her stand. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm ready." Davidson nodded once, sharply, almost with respect. Then he left, the door closing with a soft but definitive click. The safe house fell silent again, but not the helpless kind of silent. This was the silence before a counterstrike. The raid began before the sun fully cleared the horizon. Cold morning light stretched across the west side industrial lot, turning the corrugated metal walls of the warehouse into pale silver slabs. Police cruisers rolled in silently, engines low, lights off, until the entire perimeter was boxed in. Bull watched from the far end of the street with Tommy and Bear, parked behind a row of abandoned forklifts. They weren't here to intervene. They were here to witness the end of a nightmare and the birth of another. Davidson stepped out of the lead vehicle, vest strapped tight, radio clipped high on his shoulder. Teams Alpha and Bravo, move. Officers streamed toward the warehouse in 2 columns, boots soft on concrete, rifles angled down, breath visible in the cold. The warehouse door didn't creak when they breached it. It exploded inward under the hydraulic ram. Shouts, "Hands up," down on the ground. A dozen voices shattered the still morning air. Tyler Vance stumbled out of a back room. Shirt half-buttoned, eyes wild from being ripped out of sleep and adrenaline. For a split second he froze, calculating, weighing his odds. He chose wrong. 3 officers pinned him to the ground before the second hand on the wall clock could tick. One wrenched his arm behind his back. Another cuffed his wrists. A third barked Miranda rights. Tyler's face slammed against cold concrete. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. "What the hell is this?" he rasped. "I didn't do anything." Davidson crouched beside him, voice flat, almost bored. "You'll want your lawyer before you finish that sentence." Tula snarled, struggling uselessly. "You got nothing." Davidson pulled a clear plastic sleeve from his jacket. Inside, printed screenshots of the threatening text messages, brake sabotage photos, the witness sketch. He held it just high enough for Tyler to see. "On the contrary," Davidson said, "we've got more than enough." Tyler's jaw tightened. A flicker of fear cut through the bravado. The officers hauled him to his feet, arms pinned, wrists cuffed tight. Bull stepped out from behind the forklift, wanting to be seen. Bear and Tommy flanked him, silent walls of leather and steel. Tyler's head snapped toward them, recognition, then rage. His lips curled into a slow, poisoneux grin. Well, tu l'as the biker babysitters." Bull didn't move. Davidson stepped between them, eyes front. "Vance, But Tyler didn't obey. He turned his head deliberately, too deliberately, toward the small local news van that had followed the raid. The cameraman stood ready, filming the arrest. Tyler smiled into the lens. A thin, chilling smile, the kind that promised something later, the kind that said, "This isn't over." The camera caught every millimeter of it. Jennifer watched the broadcast from the safe house, both hands gripping the edges of the coffee table as the live footage played. Her breath hitched when she saw Tyler's face. That smile, that wordless message meant for her. "He's looking at me," she whispered, right through the camera. Bull's voice came through the speakerphone, steady, grounding. "That's all right," he said. "Let him look. He's in cuffs." But Jennifer shook her head slowly, eyes wide with dread. "No, that wasn't a threat for now," she murmured. "That was a threat for after." Back on the lot, Davidson gave Tyler a shove toward the cruiser. "You're done talking," he said. Tyler leaned back just enough to hiss. "She's done." Tommy took one step forward before Bull stopped him with a hand across the chest. "Not here," Bull muttered. The officers pushed Tyler into the back seat. The door slammed hard enough to echo. As the cruiser pulled away, dust rising behind it, Davidson approached Bull. "You saw that look," Davidson said. "Everyone saw it." Bull replied, "He's going away for a while," Davidson said, though even he didn't fully sound convinced. "Not long enough?" Tommy muttered. Bear cracked his knuckles, an unspoken agreement. Davidson exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. "This is the part people forget," he said quietly. "The arrest isn't the end. It's just the first clean page in the case file." Bull nodded once. When Davidson stepped away to speak with his team, Tommy turned to Bull. "He's not scared," Tommy said. "That's a man who still thinks he wins." Bull watched the cruiser disappear down the long stretch of industrial road. The sun was climbing now, turning the dust gold. "He thinks fear is leverage," Bull said softly. "He doesn't realize she's not alone anymore." Back at the safe house, Jennifer switched off the TV. Her heart still pounded. Her bones still shook. But her hands didn't tremble as badly as before. The camera had captured Tyler Vance's glare, but it had also captured his handcuffs. She stood slowly. Bull's voice stayed steady through the line. "You all right?" she said. Then, after a beat, "But I'm stronger than I was yesterday." Bull let out a slow exhale, one of pride, one of resolve. "That's enough to keep going," he said. Jennifer stepped toward the window. The swing set in the backyard moved slightly, pushed by a breeze. Tyler Vance had shown his teeth to the world, but he'd shown his chains, too. And for the first time, Jennifer felt the shift. This fight wasn't just survival anymore. It was momentum. The safe house didn't feel temporary anymore. Not with sunlight finally finding the corners. Not with laughter faintly returning to the walls. Not with the rusted swing set standing straighter than before. Jennifer stood on the small porch in a clean t-shirt and jeans, hair pulled back, mug of tea warming her hands. The morning air felt different now, lighter, breathable, the kind of air you exhale into without flinching. Tyler Vance was still in county lockup. Bail denied. Affidavit filed. Media coverage relentless. The world had shifted, and somehow she was still here. Behind her, the sound of metal scraping against metal echoed softly. She turned and saw Bull tightening a fresh bolt on the swing frame. The rusted chains had been replaced. The crooked seat now hung straight. "Didn't have to do that," she said. Bull stood up slowly, wiping grease from his fingers with a rag. "Didn't want the kid who eventually plays here to fall on his face," he said. "Swing deserved a second chance." Jennifer smiled. It still surprised her how natural it felt to smile again. Before she could respond, two motorcycle engines rolled down the quiet street. Bear and Tommy pulled up in front of the house. Dust trailing gently behind them like a curtain being lowered. Bear slid off his bike first, broad, confident, denim vest, catching the morning light. "House looks different," he said, glancing around. "It gets cleaner if you stop treating it like a ghost." Jennifer replied. Tommy whistled low when he saw the newly painted window frames. A soft blue replaced the old chipped beige. "You did that?" he asked. Jennifer lifted her chin a little. "Yeah, figured. This place shouldn't look like a hiding spot anymore." Bull exchanged a look with Tommy, a quiet acknowledgement of how far she'd come. Bear stepped closer, boots crunching on gravel. "Got a minute?" he asked Jennifer. She nodded and led them inside. The living room had changed too. The air felt lived in now. Pillows fluffed, floor swept, a soft blanket draped over the couch. On the coffee table sat a small vase with wildflowers she'd picked from the roadside. Bear looked around, taking in the transformation. Then he pulled a folded document from inside his vest. "Paperwork," he said simply. Jennifer frowned. "For what?" Bull leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her reaction. Bear placed the document in her hands. It was a deed to the safe house, her name printed at the bottom. Jennifer's breath caught. "I don't understand. What is this?" "Transfer of ownership," Bear said. "Filed, stamped, clean. But why?" she whispered. "I can't accept this. I can't afford." Bear held up a hand. "This isn't charity," he said, voice even. "This is balance. A debt paid." She blinked, confused. "Debt? What debt?" Bear looked straight at her, steady, unblinking. "You walked onto a news stage when most people would have run," he said. "You didn't just protect yourself. You exposed a man who hurt a lot of people. That created space for others to be brave. That kind of action, it carries weight. In our world, it creates a that." Jennifer looked down at the deed again. The paper trembled in her hands. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Bull said. "Just don't run from a good thing when it shows up." Tommy softened his tone. "And hey, this place deserves someone who'll take care of it. Place has history. Better future now." Jennifer swallowed hard, blinking quickly to keep tears from slipping. I never had a place that was mine," she said softly. "Not since Marcus was little. Not since everything started falling apart." Bear nodded once. "Then start here." She exhaled shakily. "But why me?" she asked again. Softer. "Why do you all care so much?" Bull stepped forward, his voice low but full. "Because you didn't fold," he said. "You stood, even scared, even shaking. People notice that. We do too." Jennifer closed her eyes for a moment, letting that sink in. When she opened them, she took a slow breath and placed her hand flat on the deed, claiming it not as a gift, but as responsibility. "I'll take it," she said finally. Tommy grinned. "Knew you would." Bear extended his hand. She shook it, her fingers small against his massive grip. "Welcome home," he said. Across the room, Bull stepped out to the backyard, hand on the swing's new chain. It gleamed faintly in the sunlight, clean metal where rust used to eat away. Jennifer joined him. "It looks new," she said. "Nah," Bull replied. "Just rebuilt." Jennifer nodded, letting the deeper meaning land exactly where he meant it. The wind pushed the swing gently, seat swaying in a slow, calm rhythm. For the first time in a long time, Jennifer didn't brace for danger at the movement. She let it rock. She let it be peaceful. She let herself breathe. And for a few quiet seconds, the world outside stopped pressing in. Morning sunlight spilled across the backyard, bright and gold, warming everything it touched. New grass, blooming marigolds along the fence line, and a swing set that no longer sagged under the weight of old pain. Fresh silver chains gleamed in the light. The seat, sanded and repainted, rocked gently in the breeze. Marcus's sneakers kicked against the dirt as he pumped his legs, gaining height with each swing. His laughter, real, unguarded, lifted into the air like a small miracle. Jennifer leaned against the porch railing, coffee in hand, soaking it in, not rushing, not bracing, just watching him be a kid again. There were still shadows. Of course, the world didn't erase danger so easily. Tyler Vance was awaiting trial. The news said he hadn't smiled since cuffs took him away. Good. Let him stew. But today wasn't about him. It was about what they'd built here. The yard looked lived in now. A small vegetable patch. Painted stones Marcus had lined along the walkway. A bird feeder Jennifer hung from the old oak branch. Life had returned, not with firework, but with quiet insistence. The rumble of a motorcycle engine rolled in from the street. Jennifer didn't jump. She smiled. The gate creaked open, and Bull stepped inside, helmet under one arm, beard a little longer, eyes still carrying the warm steadiness she'd come to rely on. "Told you he'd get the hang of it," Bull said, nodding toward Marcus. The boy spotted him, grin exploding across his face. "Bull, watch this," Marcus shouted, kicking higher. "I'm watching, kid," Bull said, crossing his arms like a proper foreman inspecting work. Jennifer walked down the porch steps, coffee mug warm against her fingers. "You're early," she said. Bull shrugged. "Toy runs later today. Thought I'd stop by first." Another engine rumbled outside the fence. Then another. Tommy and Bear arrived a second later, pushing the gate open with familiar ease. Tommy carried a bag of tools. Bear had a box tucked under one arm. "What are you two up to?" Jennifer asked, suspicious but amused. "Maintenance," Tommy answered. "Improvement," Bear corrected. He handed Marcus the box. The boy tore it open, revealing bright red streamers for the swing handle, a tiny bell, and a small metal plate engraved with two words, "Second Chance." Marcus held the plate like it was treasure. Jennifer covered her mouth, heart thudding. "You guys didn't have to." Bear cut her off gently. "We know." Bull stepped beside her, keeping his voice soft. "Some places deserve to feel finished," he said. "Not half broken. Not temporary." Jennifer blinked against the sting in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Marcus ran to the swing set, handing Tommy the streamers. Tommy tied them with exaggerated seriousness, letting the red ribbons dance with every movement. Bear installed the small metal plate at the top beam. The sun hit it just right when he stepped back. It shone. Jennifer took in the scene, Marcus laughing, the swing steady and bright, the men who'd once been shadows, now moving through her yard like family she hadn't asked for, but family who came anyway. Bear said, dusting off his hands, "How's community work treating you?" Jennifer smiled, wiping her fingers on her jeans. "Busy. Heavy. Good," she said, helping women file protective orders, driving kids home from school when their parents can't, just being the thing I needed back then. Tommy smirked. "Sounds familiar." Bull shot him a look. "It's good work," Bull said simply. "Proud of you." Jennifer felt warmth rise in her chest, the kind you don't realize you've missed until it returned. A breeze rustled the marigolds. Marcus pushed off again, streamers fluttering like little flags. The sound of more engines drifted in from the road. A few more bikes. Then a few more. The Brotherhood arriving for the toy run, forming a growing chorus of low, steady thunder. Not a threat, not anymore. Just the sound of people coming to gather. People who kept promises. People who stood where others ran. Jennifer looked toward the road, listening to the engines swell, echoing off the houses and hills. Bull stood beside her, hands tucked into his pockets, gaze quiet and sure. "You okay?" he asked. Jennifer breathed in the morning air, warm sun, growing garden. Marcus's laughter, the hum of engines like an iron heartbeat rolling through the neighborhood. "I am," she said softly. She glanced at Bull. "You know, 6 months ago, that sound used to mean danger." Bull raised an eyebrow, and now Jennifer looked back at the street, at the rising chorus of engines, at the swing swaying steady in the yard, at her son safe and whole. "Now it means I'm not alone," she whispered. "Family finds you by the sound of an engine." Bull's mouth twitched, half a smile, half something deeper. "Good line," he said. Jennifer took another sip of her coffee, turned toward the yard, and watched Marcus fly. For the first time in years, she let herself believe in tomorrow. At its heart, this story reminds us that strength doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes it's a weathered biker who refuses to walk past a child in trouble. Sometimes it's a mother who signs her name on a legal document even though her hands are shaking. And sometimes it's a small swing set being rebuilt. Quiet proof that healing is possible, one bolt at a time. The deeper truth is this: injustice thrives in silence, in the moments when fear convinces us to stay small, but the moment we speak, the moment we reach out, the moment we refuse to disappear, everything changes. Real courage isn't loud or flawless. It's choosing to step forward when retreat would be easier. It's acknowledging that we are worthy of safety, dignity, and a life untouched by violence or shame. And it's recognizing that help can come from unexpected places if we allow ourselves to accept it. Life has a way of testing us. The long road shows the true horse, as the old saying goes, but those same roads can lead us to people who lift us up when we cannot stand alone. We are reminded that justice is not just a courtroom word. It's an everyday choice, a choice to look out for one another, a choice to believe in our own worth, a choice to break cycles that once felt unbreakable. If this story touched something in you, I invite you to share your thoughts below. Have you ever faced a moment when speaking up changed everything? Leave a comment, tap the like button to support stories like this, and subscribe to stay close as we explore more journeys of resilience and truth. Wishing you calm after the storms you've weathered and the quiet strength to face whatever comes next.